Welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of What Would You Do If? And today we are sponsored by Bud Light. And we're going to do the episode on what would you do if somebody said that Gen Z should be coming of age. Lots to cover on this subject today.
Yes, something that I'm quite passionate about.
Very passionate about. I think we are, at BDB, we're very passionate about. So,
yeah.
Let's fire right into it.
Yeah.
I think we should start on why we champion Gen Z as an agency.
Okay. Me personally, I can give you my take on it. So me personally, I started my career off as an apprentice. So I started work at 16 and was nurtured by various individuals, is the way I'd phrase it, through my early stages of my career. And not everybody nurtured me. Some people were, I can't swear, can I? Some people weren't very nice when you were younger, but in the sense of a lot of the people that really looked after me and kind of furthered my career and gave me opportunities to grow and expose myself to different kind of experiences, I guess, in terms of as you go through your career, I look back on with really fond memories and I respected them so much, and they're the people I actually worked the hardest for. Yeah. And you know, thanks to a lot of them, and I won't name check them, but in the sense of I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today probably without some of the efforts and some of the stuff they put into me. So for me, now when you've got your name above the door in your own business, I think it's really important to kind of pass that on, and it's not in a cheesy way. I genuinely believe this, and I think hopefully anybody in the business would know this about me. I really believe in passing it on to the next generation, giving people those opportunities, and trying to, you know, emulate, I guess, what people did with me. Yeah. Now, I was either 16, 18, 21, 24, coming up through different businesses. I definitely would have been viewed as young, cocky, different, gobby, opinionated, because I used to look at people doing things and think, why on earth do you do it that way? It's so boring or old, or you can do it so much quicker by doing something different. And I think that, if you cut there, is exactly what Gen Z are doing now to us, because they're going, why do you do that? Or why don't you do it this way? And they can find quicker and better ways to do things because they're just different, and they think about things differently. And I don't think that's a problem. No. I don't think. But
why do you think they get a bad rep? I mean, obviously we have a GenZ podcast, as well, which is really, really good. If you ever listen to it as well, we'll put a link in the video to their podcast.
Yeah, but we started on that exactly for this point. Yeah. So we started on that because I was going to an awful lot of dinners and awards dues and speaking peer-to-peer with different agency owners, you name it, we were doing it. And at every single event, I was going to say grey-haired men, but I can't say that in front of you, can I? But there was a lot of older men with grey hair. It happened to be who I would call it the grey heads, is what I mean, in the sense of the analogy, who were whinging continually about how these Gen Zers, they're fickle, they're not loyal, they won't hang around, and to an extent, maybe the previous owners of this business were a little bit like that because they were traditional and of a different generation to what I've even come up through. Yeah. And there's no doubt these Gen Zers, they are different. But you just got to adapt and evolve your approach as an employer. Then you can't rest on your laurels and expect people to do 80-hour weeks for you and that'll be paid overtime, and that they view things differently. But they are changing the way.
Well, they're now becoming. I think that the one of the reasons why we wanted to do this podcast today, why they were coming of age, is because they are now becoming the modern day decision makers, aren't they? We'll come back to BDB a bit later on. I think.
If you look at the evolution of the modern B2B buyer, which I guess is the more technical point for this from a work angle, you're getting more of the Gen Zers, not as much yet, but I'm not saying they're not, because there'll be younger people that are already doing really well, but the millennials certainly are becoming.
Some of your tech businesses that you're going to be pitching.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you can't say they're not, but more certainly the millennials across most of the sectors that we work in B2B. Yeah. Most of the decision makers or people that can influence that decision making process of whether somebody buys or not from you. Yeah. Are becoming, if not already, millennials. So effectively what you're talking about here, I guess, is the evolution of the modern B2B buyer, because I think that's what's impacting the B2B space. Yeah. So you're talking about Gen Zs and millennials both coming of age and impacting and influencing that buying process. Yeah. And whether they're the primary, whether it's their primary responsibility that they're the decision maker who's actually going to...
Well, decision or influencers, aren't they?
Well, I think that's where you get into the primary, secondary, tertiary, wherever. But
however, they're effective.
They are involved in the process throughout these days, which are then again, you can wind that on again of like the different channels that you're on, where your products, services, and business can be found, the way you communicate, which comes back to omni-channel, customer centricity, all the different channels you should be on for different age brackets and so on.
What I find fascinating when you listen to their podcast, it does give you an insight into the mind of.
Yeah, but that's what I'll probably smile more on this podcast because I'm just really passionate about it. But in the sense of that's why I wanted to give those guys a voice. So in the sense of you're at these dinners, everybody's saying to you, "Oh, the lazy, the bone idle." There's no loyalty is the big one that you hear a lot, and that I've never got that. Like I was loyal to PwC years ago because they took a risk on me at 18 and educated me and gave me 8 to 10 of the best years of my life. Where I met my wife and I don't know, they made me a lot of what I am today, I guess, if you know what I mean. And that
They nurtured you.
I was really loyal to them. Yeah. So me leaving there was a huge thing at the time. It's just not like that these days. But I suppose what I'm trying to create here at BDB is that same kind of culture that people love working here, they enjoy working here, they haven't got that dread about coming to work.
But how far do you, if you're a business now, how far do you actually take that?
I don't know, do you want to have a team?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that's what I'd say to anybody. Do you want to have a team?
You know,
so if you continue to employ people in the same way you've employed people for the last 50 years, if you've been in business a long time, if you don't, you're not going to end up with a team, or you'll end up with people bouncing around doing these cycles of experience, which we can come back to. But I guess focusing on the podcast itself for us, just to make that point, I wanted to give them a voice because the guys that we employ here who are 18, I think, and I'm looking at Sam, the videographer here, but he's gone, you're 20? 19? 19. He's looking at me, he's 19. 19. That extra 12 months makes all the difference. But no, in the sense of, we've got people probably here, we have had people from sort of 18 upwards is what I would say. But that 18 to 30-year-old bracket that we have at the minute in this business is the core of our team.
Yeah.
And if we want to grow, we want to deliver on our aspirations for growth, maintaining and holding on to that bracket of 18 to 30-year-olds as they grow with the business and hopefully become future business leaders is absolutely critical.
But it is fascinating on listening to their views on things. I think more not just about business, not just about business, just about. It's funny.
I'd encourage you to go listen to it. So it's 99 problems, but Gen Z ain't one, or Gen Z ain't one, whatever they want to say it.
And you listen to talk about not just work, what they talk about. It's funny, I wish I could have a mic in here one day when they're talking about, two of the lads are talking about the girls. And it's like, but what I'm saying is how they.
It's just entertaining.
It's not just from a business point of view, because I know sometimes they've covered subjects and brought in, we've covered subjects on our podcast and they've kind of mirrored it, but from their point of view. And it's interesting.
But that's really interesting.
It's interesting to listen to both.
But what I would argue is you cannot deny they are well-educated, opinionated, bright, young individuals who are getting more and more well-rounded, but they're well-informed, they're well-read. I don't think you can possibly dismiss them because the Gen Z or millennials are being lazy, bone idle, blah, 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 blah. You know, I think they demand more. That's why I think they're a demand generation.
They are a demand generation, and I think that when people call them fickle, it's because they haven't got their messaging right in terms of.
Well, fickle would be they haven't got the brand proposition right. No. Fickle would be they haven't got the office right. They don't want to invest in infrastructure.
Talking about the podcast about how many people would leave a brand if it wasn't sustainable, all that kind of stuff. You got to remember that is their generation. It's funny watching politics play out as it does this week, and how childlike some of the politicians have acted this week.
But I think they're worse than anybody at the minute. But I think even the whole sustainability side of things, I can't remember if we've touched on it in a previous podcast or not, but we surveyed our team to ask them what they wanted as part of their remuneration package. So I was kind of expecting, and I was, because you have this stereotype in your head that they just want to sit on a beach and have this chilled life, so unlimited holidays, I thought, and work-life balance and all that. Remuneration was number one. So we employ a wide demographic of age groups here, but a lot of them are in that 18. Money talks. So you've got to get that right, but that isn't everything. No. So that's your starting point. You can't not pay well. No. But then it's on top of that, what builds and what becomes more and more and more as you go up in terms of the wider remuneration, the wider benefits, the work-life balance. And then for me, coming into it is engaging work, good clients, international opportunities. And I think that's what we're getting good at offering here. And it's still, you know, we've got better team continuity than any other agency I know.
How do you retain staff when
Team.
But even team though, you're going back to your point about your PwC thing. I know you were there for a while and you were loyal.
I was always learning.
But do you think you'll lose some of them? You'll lose some of them, won't you? And you'll happily let them go and fly the nest if they're.
We've had people that have left us, but left us for opportunities that were better suited to what their aspirations were, or personal objectives, or work-life balance, or. But having said that, not many.
No.
And the people that have left in recent years from here, with I always say there's probably 2 or 3 or a handful that you're disappointed about because you saw something in them, or you really enjoyed working with them, but more you saw something in them for the future. But again, I totally respect their decision to go. I respect their reasons for going, and I'll never try and turn anybody around in that decision, because if they're going, they're going. But we are better than most, and I think we're getting that right. That's what I mean. But when you break it down of why I stayed at PwC, I was always learning, and for me that was important because I wanted to develop, I wanted to get better, and I didn't leave because I stopped learning. I left because I got offered a better opportunity to learn something better, faster, quicker. But that was my motivating factor, alongside money and alongside, title and various other things, I'm sure at the time, and all the rest of it. Which.
But everyone is talking about talent acquisition at the moment, aren't they? It's almost like a hot potato. It has been for 4 or 5 years now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Probably longer, really.
Yeah.
And I don't know, in Manchester, I kind of feel, because we have a very, very digitally focused city.
Yeah.
I remember talking to you about this once, didn't I? You know, after San Francisco and London, we're probably number 3 in the world.
Yeah.
We've got some of the biggest fashion houses here, so it probably makes it a little bit easier to recruit for us.
Yeah.
As agencies or client side, I would say, from a digital point of view. So, but I think if you're in Nottingham, not as much Leeds, but if you're out in the sticks somewhere else, in another city, even Birmingham to an extent.
Yeah.
I think the talent pool.
Yeah, but I think that in itself, it depends what you're offering. What are you offering as an employer? If it's a job, it's probably not going to cut it with the younger generation. No. A job is, and that's where you'll end up with 6 months, 12 months. You might get 2 years out of somebody, but they'll go and find another job. Whereas you're trying to offer an experience, is what I would say here, of working. That's my view on it. It might be wrong, by the way, but my personal view on it. You're trying to offer an experience, and you're trying to make a culture where it's inclusive and. I don't say this in a twee way. I mean, but we've got some really diverse people in this building. But that's awesome.
Yeah.
But that's what. But I love that in the sense that everybody is different. Everybody brings something different to the table, and we're not all clones, and we're not all exactly the same. But what we're building here is a truly formidable team.
But just switching back to the client side for a minute.
Yeah.
I think what I find fascinating when you listen to their podcast is, and we're going to get one of them on one week actually, or 2 of them on one week.
Capture one.
Which we will capture one, yeah, we're really, really good. It's just the way they interact with the world. And I think, I know we've done presentations on it, on storytelling and the GenZ coming of age. And even I was like,
but there's a lot of theory out there, isn't there? There's a lot of theory around this stuff. You do a lot of reading on it, but quite often you find the people that are writing it are probably older generations and their take on Gen Z and millennials. Yeah. Whereas speaking to them and working with them and listening to their forum, that's what their podcast is really. It's their forum to discuss things, and it's done in a jovial, jokey, open way. But when you hear their opinions,
but when you hear them talk about YouTube and TikTok and all the channels that brands should be on. I'm not only just picking those 2 out because the most prevalent.
No, but they. On one of the ones the other day, somebody said, "I don't watch TV."
No.
At all was a statement,
no,
and I was like, "Sorry, what?"
They didn't say that. He said, "He said there's no such thing as TV."
Okay, that was the one. Wasn't it?
I said, "What?" He said, "There's no such thing as TV." So I said, "Just talk to me." I was like, "I've got one in my living room."
Yeah.
He said, I said, "Well, tell me how many times now you actually go through your TV channels."
Yeah.
He said, and he said, when you go home.
But the answer to that might be, you might a bit, and I do a bit, because that's what we're used to and that's what we've grown up with.
The day and,
they don't. They don't. Like, they literally go on
YouTube,
Netflix, YouTube, Prime. Amazon Prime, which is, for me, I use all those. I watch all those.
Frankie, my son, by the way, he's not a Gen Z, he's 9, doesn't watch TV.
Yeah.
That is categorically fact. He does not watch TV.
But I think that's what's interesting when you think about the channels and where you can access people and where you can find your people. But I guess flipping it again with the whole Gen Z thing, it's about time they do come of age. But I respect that and I hope they do, because they'll find quicker and better ways to do things than what we do. The key thing for me is giving them great employment, a great opportunity, and also for our clients, making sure we've got continuity and good tenure with our team. Because I think at the minute you're at the risk if you don't do things right with your team, you don't invest in their development, by the way, which is on an employer to do that. In the days of kind of, and this is, I sound a bit preachy now, but in the sense of the days of being proactive about your own development, I think a lot of people put a lot of the weight on the employer now from the Gen Z and the millennial side of, you should be educating me and giving me experiences, otherwise I'll go and get it elsewhere. But I get that. If that's where the market's at, that's fine. But you run the risk of having somebody for 6 to 24 months, I think, is a typical cycle now that you'll get a Gen Z or millennial in a position for. Now, 6 to 24 months for a client is an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Because you introduce them. So they just about get up to speed with you, particularly in the technical B2B space that we're in. They just about get up to speed with the client. They'll do a campaign or a year's activity and then resign. And then somebody new comes in.
Got to do all over again.
And you've got to reimmerse them and get them involved again and get them involved with the client again. And this is a cycle. And this is why most agencies, I think, are struggling at the minute, because they can't hold on to team members. And when you hear agencies in the Northwest referred to as sweatshops, because there is a lot of digital talent available in Manchester, but it's young, it's cheap, and that, I don't believe in that. So, we've had 2 or 3 apprentices come through the ranks here, and they've all come through and got permanent jobs with us, and they're all well paid. But there's people just cycling through apprentices.
Agency world is not an easy world to it's an exciting world to be in. It's a roller coaster. It's pacey.
It's the pace of an agency, I think, that's hard. The pace, and it is stressful, but the pace is particularly critical in the sense of it's pressured.
And the pace can change, can't it? If it can slip through the gears very, very quickly.
Yeah, but I don't think that I would refute the point that anybody says that's a Gen Z thing or a millennial thing. That's just an individual thing. Individuals can cope under pressure and certain ones can't.
Yeah, I think that's a personality.
But you can find baby boomers or whatever other Gen Y, whatever generation you want to pick on, where you'll find individuals who cope better under pressure, working to deadlines, working the time zones, less sleep, arguably, all that kind of stuff. And there's other people who just don't cope well in that environment. I don't believe that's a cushy Gen Z millennial thing. I think it's an individual.
So what do you think from a client side point of view now? I think that we've said it recently, is I think all clients have now got to look to the future. They've all got to think, don't be just advertising. So if your market is 40 to 50 or 35 plus, whatever. Yeah. In the next 3 to 5 years, steal a march on your competition and start talking to those.
But I think one of the biggest things I've seen with a lot of prospects at the minute when you talk about opportunities with them is, and I'm going to use conversational marketing as the link here because it came up the other week. So conversational marketing as in chatbots, primarily live chat, that kind of functionality on a website, a landing page, whatever it may be. And you say chatbots out loud to I'll say our generation, we're similar.
I don't want to go on them.
But that's what you get. Yeah. And you go older than us, you get chatbots, but I'm not interacting with one of them, I don't want one of them. And we've had this in a pitch recently where we've introduced this as a concept that cutting through that noise and capturing that prospect there and then when they're looking at your stuff and trying to sell to them and capture them in that moment. So you've made it through, you've cut through all the content everywhere, you've got them to where you want them. And then how do you capitalise on that? So we will have a conversation on conversational marketing. It's quite a current thing at the minute. You can jump in and out of the bots, a live chat. You can have one-on-one interactions.
Also, it saves time.
Absolutely not. We don't want to do bots. That's not what we do. We don't. No. That's not how I'd interact with my. And you sit there going, it's not you. But it's not you. So in the sense of, I think sometimes listening to the younger generations could really get you on the front foot of planning for the future. If you hear about what channels, what are they on, where they can be found, YouTube, the like, and all the rest of it. So
it was really funny. I saw a video, and I'll try and share it if I can find it on the links in the YouTube video. About they recorded a 16-year-old girl, a 21-year-old lad, a 29-year-old girl, 35-year-old man 40 and so on up until 60, and recorded them navigating a website, same website, and it was absolutely fascinating.
In terms of the way they
just absolutely fascinating the way they navigate the website. And I think you've got to take all those things into consideration.
But all that comes back to how well do you know your customer and who do you want to sell to? So, it's very easy to say my target demographic isn't Gen Z or millennials, which is what you hear a lot at the minute, isn't it? But that's not them.
Yeah.
It will be in the next.
It
will be. It probably already is, and it definitely will be in the next 3 to 5 years. Is what you're really talking about. Where we're at the minute, you might not think that Gen Zs or millennials are your target demographic of who you're trying to sell to because you're used to selling to a more mature audience.
Yeah.
But I think 3 to 5 years time, realistically, if not already, I would argue.
I think you've definitely got to say they are already, and if. Like we said, we've been in the podcast, they're influencing anyway. Whether decision makers or influencers, regardless, that's
that are going to transition through and evolve.
That is an absolute mitigating fact.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we've got to look at is if you're a client now, or what I know the advice we give to clients, so I don't want to give too much away in on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, giving the keys to the kingdom away a little bit, but what would your advice now be to clients who are trying to influence, engage the Gen Z from a marketing standpoint?
But I think that's a key word is engagement. So a lot of the prospects and particularly on the social media or various different channels that clients and prospects operate within at the minute is noise. I've said this a lot now, so it's getting content out there, but cannon fodder content, which they're putting out there and they feel like they've ticked the box. Engagement's different. Are you looking for conversations? Are you looking to own a forum? Are you looking to build a community? Are you looking to educate people?
Yeah.
And all these different points. If you are, then that's engagement beyond a click or a like. And you see that Instagram dropping the likes, Facebook have followed this week by dropping the likes because it shouldn't be about liking people, and I guess it's all tied to kind of mental health as well. Rather than posting for likes, it's more about posting for, and engagement's going to be the next thing. So you're talking about.
It's already here, get engagement, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah,
Come on, how many of our B2B clients and prospects genuinely?
Oh no, they don't.
Their content results in engagement.
They don't. I think we know engagement's it's been here for a while, but our clients don't. That's the thing, is our clients still target themselves on likes and views.
But that's where sales and marketing are aligning.
Yeah.
Because in the sense of you're going to end up with, unless it's generating an engagement, unless it's generating sales, it's not going to be classed as a successful campaign because the number of likes you've got won't cut it going forward. But I think if you're giving advice to a client in terms of thinking about marketing to Gen Z and millennials, I would say steal a march on the competition, because those that have built some traction and some following and some engagement on, and I don't want to call it emerging platforms, but emerging B2B platforms, arguably, things like Instagram, things like YouTube, things like TikTok, and I don't profess to understand TikTok, by the way.
And I also think if you're a brand and you can afford it, and a lot of the brands that we deal with can afford it, even a lot of the new tech startups or startups in nutrition or wherever it is, get funding to do it, is don't just concentrate on digital. You do some experiential marketing, get out, talk to people. It's not just about online. Online will constitute 78% of your market budget, I'm sure it will. But get to it, we've covered it in previous podcasts, get to exhibitions, do some experiential stuff.
But again, that comes down to knowing who you want to sell to, because the digital platforms can give you that reach and give you that quick reach if that's what you're trying to achieve in terms of getting your message out quickly to a larger audience group. The more on the ground, old school tactics, arguably, DMs, high value experiential events, exhibitions, and meeting and speaking to those people and building the engagement is what you're actually talking about there again. Not that it ever went away, but it's certainly coming back to the forefront, because you're talking about cutting through the old school noise and these digital techniques came out. Now you're talking about cutting through the digital noise, which is involving new and weird ways. But arguably, a lot of it is going back to more traditional approaches in a way as well.
Do you know what? Having listened to their podcast, one of the biggest things I'd say for clients is find a way to add value and get the people to revisit your website for any other reason than to purchase from you. That's what I would say. That, having listened to them regularly, is getting them to engage with your content on a regular basis, giving that added value. They will then subliminally buy from you anyway.
I agree. I think that's one of the common denominators listening to their podcast is they want to feel bought into that brand.
Yeah.
And I know we say that all the time about brand and articulating your message, telling your story, articulating your point of differentiation. For the younger generations, they want to feel some kind of commitment, emotional buy-in and emotional buy-in to that brand. And if that's not there, you've already lost the battle, arguably. Yeah. And I think it's interesting, again, just looping into that point when you're talking about market leaders and what I've always heard termed like ankle biters, like the small fry competition that don't bother you really, but they're annoying. But marketing technology, evolution of marketing, and the younger generations are turning ankle biters into the knee, and they'll slowly start working their way up the leg if you're not careful, because some of the smaller, more brands in their infancy are getting this right, and they'll if they get the groundswell and the appeal from the younger generations really quickly. But these are the guys that'll stick with that brand, because people say they're not loyal. They're loyal to a brand if they can get that emotional commitment.
And if they're carrying good value and carrying
consistent, authentic communication.
Do you think that applies when we're talking about employers as well? If you're an agency, small, medium, large, looking to build a team, I think engagement's key again, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it's got, for me, I mean, we try to do it here the best we can. We're rapidly growing, so it's hard, but you certainly don't want to neglect it. That we're trying to build a culture here where you're consistently embodying exactly what we said earlier, in terms of investing in those individuals and wanting them to be with the team and wanting them to develop with you. But unless you're consistently delivering that message, and you see it with a lot of brands, and I've got a lot of peers and a lot of friends that are running different businesses who'll do spiky activity. They'll have a summer team day, done. That's their thing for the year.
It's tick box.
It's tick box. It's the same principle as what you're saying with your communication strategy. It's the exact same thing. It's a tick box exercise. Or they'll have a night out.
But they see through it though, don't they?
Yeah, whereas for me, that's why the culture that you develop in the business should embody your values, and the values should embody what the business kind of stands for, which we're trying to do that here authentically and consistently, which is hard with all the distractions that are going on and growing the business and everything else. But if you're passionate enough about it and you really want to develop the future generations, I think that's where you've got to be as an employer.
I agree. Another great episode. So thanks,
hopefully.
Thanks again. Subscribe on YouTube, please. Tick the notifications as well if you want to know when the latest episode is coming out. We're available on all podcast channels, so you don't have to just watch our pretty faces and see us smiling at you. You can listen on the podcast channels, available on all top podcast channels, including Spotify, Apple, Google, so go on there. And also we have a fabulous knowledge base, don't we, as well?
Yeah, check out our knowledge hub, www.b2bknowledge.com, which is our content hub, which houses all our content free and available for download online. So yeah, thanks very much.
Cheers. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.